Welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner Classics as Non-Classic. This is episode number 1716 and Doubleshot number 1610. Most for this review, I'm just discussing. Excuse me. I'm discussing the backup feature from issues 600 to 608 for Incredible Hulk, the Fall of Hulk's She-Hulk's miniseries, and the second and final trade of the collect issues from Geoff Johns' run from Avengers. Now, for issues 600 to 605, it is a six-parter that focuses on Lila, I think her name is. Yes. Yeah, it's a story that starts in issue 600. Yep. Yeah, and this backup feature is mostly done by Fred Lent, artwork by Michael Ryan and Sylvia Espin. Now, the whole thing about this one is that, well, you see, She-Hulk is from another dimension. Well, this She-Hulk anyways. And the way the artist draws her is that, wow. Not only make her beautiful, they give her a freaking six-pack. She's like a freaking bodybuilder. Well, what do you expect? She's a daughter of the Hulk. And she's Sakaar's sister. Well, half-sister anyways. Yep. Now, throughout this whole feature, now, she basically breaks into the head. She goes straight to armor, and she has to, of course, she beats a bunch of bad guys. And throughout this storyline, like, basically in the opening issue, she beats a bunch of bad guys, and then she goes back to, well, Armor HQ. Armor, in case you wonder what the heck Armor is, it's a agency that deals with alternate realities. That's simply what it is. Aside appearing in this book, Armor didn't appear in comics very much. Yeah, it popped up a couple times in like Midnight Suns. Yeah. And Lyra was basically an agent of it. Yeah, she's the only like noteworthy agent of it per se. Yes, Armor, which, yeah, it was actually first introduced page to Marvel Zombies. Yes, Fred Van Lint created this group, so of course, basically that, well, he would write a lot of the stuff associated with the group itself. Yeah, I mean, first appearance was in Marvel Zombies number 3. Well, 3 number 1, that was the first time it ever appeared in the comics. It's appeared sporadically, per se. I mean, after the first Marvel Zombies 3 and 4, it appeared, well, it made its first appearance in the all-new Savage She-Hulk miniseries, Dark Reign tie-in, and then appeared in this book, mostly the first couple issues, and they're dropped, and then they appeared for one issue of Marvel Zombies 5, they're there for Marvel Zombies Destroy, one in Avengers Academy, and the most recent appearance of the group is Slapstick. Yep. Which was a digital first book. And here's the thing though. Most of the time, it is in fact Fred Van Lint writing this group. Yes. I don't think, let's see. Yeah. Most of the time, whenever the group does show up, it's usually Fred Van Lint who writes them. Yes. Wait, you might be thinking, really? He does? He writes pretty much all the appearances of... Well, the first time he doesn't is Marvel Zombies Destroy. Yep, that was the first time, that miniseries was the first time it was not written by him. The last time officially was Marvel Zombies number 5. That was the last official time. That was back in 2010. Yeah, a lot of appearances, like the first appearance, Marvel Zombies 3 number 1, back in October 2008. So roughly about 12 years, actually about 14 years ago, was first appearance in this group. And the last special appearance was 5 years ago in Slapstick number 6. Yes, that was the last time Slapstick ever appeared. Not Slapstick. That it was Armor. Yeah, I don't know why Armor doesn't really appear very much. It's quite weird. To date, I've never heard of an explanation of why Armor has been dropped from comics. Yeah, of why in the world that it's been a good 5 years since the last time they physically appeared. And so in this issue 601, which actually was the last in this book, they actually had featured them, which, by the way, they previously appeared in the pages of all books. She-Hulk miniseries, which is first appearance of Lyra. Now, She-Hulk goes back to Armor HQ, and she's wondering where She-Hulk is. And he's like, as for She-Hulk, I'm looking at her. Like, our She-Hulk is right here. Like, but she's asking about Jennifer Walters. And then she has, like, a romance with a fellow agent, which, yeah, here's the thing. It doesn't really go anywhere. And then fights this female electric character, basically for this character. And then, of course, we have basically a return by the Gamma Corps in issue 602. Yep. But it's great, though, that Lyra gets a backup feature in her father's book. Yeah. Yep. So she battles like various monsters in this very, let's just say, very brief feature. I mean, it's only 6 issues. Started with 600, and it wrapped up with 605. You're probably thinking, why did it end with 605, you might ask? Well, there was a reason. Fall of the Hulks happened, so they got to move her to a miniseries for herself. Yep, which was the second miniseries she had. Yeah, apparently she basically wasn't that big enough to get her own, let's say, ongoing. So, though at the time was her second ever miniseries. Yep. So, a lot of the time, though, basically she is just battling, like, various creatures, like, throughout this whole thing. Battling various monsters because it's She-Hulk, so why not? Yes. And this lasts for a good chunk, pretty much this whole storyline. Yes, her fighting monsters, while trying to figure out what Jennifer Walters is. Yes, and this is what she does the entire feature. Yeah, the feature wraps up with issue 605. Yes, which basically this also ends the very first story arc of Greg Pak's run for his second run for the book, excuse me. Yeah. This issue right here was the last that they ended the feature with the book. And here she runs into her mom. Thundera! Yes. She runs her beautiful mom. And the thing is, Lyra basically is a spitting image of her mother, except she's got a different skin color, and she's a bit younger. Yeah, that's the only difference between them. And then, of course, like, oh no, it's you! Who does she runs into? Well, it's not figured out until Fall of the Hulks. She-Hulk. Yeah, the miniseries. As for 606, 608, it's mostly put, like, what Red She-Hulk was off screen during, like, prior to showing up in the pages of Hulk versus Red Hulk versus X-Force. Yeah, and one of the most interesting things happened in the storyline was that Domino burns her tire, though it doesn't cause a little burn to her outfit. So what does Red She-Hulk do? Pick up, like, she grabs Domino, well, basically finding a construction site, and it's like, oh yeah, you ruined my clothes? So what does she see do to Domino? She strips her naked. And then, of course, she's saved by Elektra. And this kind of three-parter kind of leads into that particular thing, which, yeah, there's that. And that's that run. Now, you might be thinking, okay, if in fact Fred Lenz wrote the Savage She-Hulk backup feature for 600 to 605, who did it for She-Hulk? Was it Jeff Loeb, the guy who basically gave Betty Ross, well, let's see, this is done by Harrison Wilcox. Yep, that's who pretty much does this three-parter. Yep, that's who pretty much does it. Now, moving on to Fall of the Hulks, the Savage She-Hulks. Which this book is done by Jeff Parker. Yep, Jeff Parker is the writer for the book. And you're probably thinking, who does? Well, who does she run into? Well, she runs into her mother. Yep, the Savage Six. Yep. So she finds her mom, and of course she goes looking. She's of course still looking for She-Hulk. Yeah, the intelligence. This is of course during the events of Fall of the Hulks. She gets attacked by Ulysses Claw, the Trapster, various villains, and then of course, who else? The real Savage She-Hulk, like some of the backup take on. Well, you have the Frightful Four, and of course they summon Red She-Hulk. Her outfit's more torn than it was last time it was seen. Yep. Never sees a fight in the wisdom really stupid. He tries to put electric collar on Red She-Hulk. And of course it gets ripped off. It's like, grrr. And of course brings her along. And of course still looking for her. And then of course the watches she has, which I believe Armor gave that to her. And they go to the Helicar, basically a base that there's under construction. And then she finally finds Jennifer Walters, who's been missing for quite a while. Yeah, finally finds her. Now, in case you're curious, how long is this miniseries? It's only 3 issues. You're thinking, really? Yeah, really. So, while the Hulk stuff basically was going on in the main book, we have Lyra rescue, well, She-Hulk. The original She-Hulk. Yeah, rescues her. And by the way, they apparently keep her in a bikini while she's in that suit. Yeah. And of course, basically, you have Lyra getting a backstory by her father. Yeah, talk about her final mission. Hell with her slap. And of course, he's like, I don't care what she had to do. Then there was a great woman. And of course, that Lyra just happens to have She-Hulk's attire and tells her that Thunder was looking for going back to the 20th century all this time. And then they run into Savage. Then they run into Red She-Hulk. And then they have She-Hulk versus She-Hulk for a while. And then, of course, and some convincing, of course, like, well, you probably think, oh, are they going to team with each other? Well, they do in the final issue. Yes, Red She-Hulk teams up with, well, the Hulk's cousin and the Hulk's daughter. Yeah, by the way, and Lyra, for some reason, has stopped wearing her previous attire, and now she's wearing a Fantastic Four outfit. Why? Read the main book, basically, to get an explanation for that. Yep. She, of course, Lyra kind of meets her brother for the first time in this miniseries. And they have this really awesome She-Hulk smash, which I found to be so hilarious. Yep. Yeah, and then of course, basically there's a message that Lyra sends to her mom in the future, and it kind of changes her destiny a little bit. Yeah, I gotta say, really good miniseries. I personally enjoyed it. Yep. I'm gonna give this miniseries a 9 out of 10. Really good. Nothing bad about it per se. It's a pretty fun miniseries. Relates to the events of World War Hulk. Now, well, no, Fall of the Hulks. Now we're on to the second and final trade of Avengers by Geoff Johns, Book 2. Excuse me. This book collects issues 64 to 77. Now, 64, I've kind of talked about this already pretty much in a Sam Wilson and Captain America trade. Because it's a Sam Wilson issue, so I'm going to skip over this one. Actually, I think this was actually collected in not the All New Captain America stuff. It was actually collected All New Captain America for him. Next, we have basically a couple story arcs here First up, it's the Red Zone. Yep. Well, you can kind of say this story is mostly planting seeds for the return of the invaders. Because, well, this brings the return of, well, Red Skull. Yep. Also, Warbird is wearing this attire for some reason. And she just briefly returned wearing this outfit in the pages of Miss Marvel. Yep. Sorry about that. Yep. Plus, you gotta love these covers. These covers are really good. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're curious, though, how long is Red Zone? I think it's just a few issues. I believe so. Yeah, I think it's just about 4 or 5 issues they get us. Let me take a look just to be sure. Red Zone is only like it's basically a 6-parter. It starts through 65 and it wraps up with issue 70. Yep. That's pretty much what it is. Mm-hmm. Actually, scratch it. It doesn't stop at 77. It stops at 76. Yep. But this particular story could just basically kind of like a disaster type of storyline that Geoff Johns basically did. He has some little bit of like hidden stuff revealed here. But yeah, it's also revealed in this book that, well, Red Skull is in the cabinet. Yep, that's what they reveal in this very story arc. Yep. Of course, this story arc is wrapped up by issue 70. And then, of course, the last special story arc that Geoff Johns ever did, I believe, didn't start with 71. No. The whole thing of Red Skull being basically like working, being the whole, yeah. He was also the Secretary of Defense, Dull Rusk. Yes. Yeah, and then pretty much like the finale is simply the downfall of Dull Rusk, aka the Red Skull. Yeah, and of course, basically, it's concluded with issue number 70. Yeah, that's where the story concludes, and it's a really fun story arc. Yeah, it's one of those rare occasions where you have the Avengers take on the Red Skull. As far as I can tell, prior to this, you're probably thinking, okay, when was the last time, prior to the storyline, the Avengers have ever fought the Red Skull? Okay, did they fight him in the 60s? No. 70s? No. 80s? Not to my knowledge. And they didn't fight him in the 90s. I think this story arc here was the first time ever the Avengers took on the Red Skull. Sorry about that. My notes keep flowing. Now, the reason why, because he's a Captain America villain, so why would he pop up in Avengers? Yeah. Now, in the case of issue 71, this is a standalone issue, just like 64 was. This is him to put basically Wasp and Yellow Jacket in Las Vegas, where they kind of rekindling their relationship, and one of the most interesting things happened at the end of the issue, where Hank Pym has the second ever proposal to Janet. Now, the first time he proposed to her, well, when they got engaged, it was due to circumstances when he was a Yellow Jacket. Well, when he was Yellow Jacket, when he was actually Goliath. But Janet turned him down. I think because she did not want a repeat of their marriage, despite the fact they clearly do love each other. And despite the fact they're also divorced. But it's only a quick standalone issue, and then it starts from 72 to 76. It's Search of She-Hulk, because She-Hulk went freaking nuts. Yep. But this standalone issue is awesome. We have a brief return by Whirlwind, who is in fact an old Hank Pym villain. Now, you might be thinking, is this the only time that he's a popular Avengers book? I think he popped up one other time after this, but I think that was it. It's something kind of weird, though. For the last story arc of Geoff Johns' run, we have this artwork for the cover art. And it's not very good. So, you have artwork that's okay at best. It's not good, per se, but it's okay. It's not terrible. It's just okay. Most of what She-Hulk is missing, and the whole storyline is basically them searching for her. Yeah, and also she's not wearing her signature attire in this. This artwork is done by Scott Nolans. Yep. Who years later does have much better artwork. But this artwork is I'm not really a big fan of. No, not really. Yeah, the colors look okay, and there's stuff a little bit here with the Scott Lang, Hank Pym, where he's here with his daughter Cassie, and well, and meanwhile, while this is going on, while She-Hulk is going frickin' nuts attacking the Avengers, he's basically spending time with his daughter, which he's a parent, so of course he would. And basically, this story arc basically lead to something that related to Jack of Hearts. And then we have the return of Hawkeye to the Avengers. Yep, he comes back to the Avengers. After all this time, he finally comes back. Are you thinking, what was the last book he popped up in prior to this? Thunderbolts. Yep. He returns to the Avengers after popping up in Thunderbolts for a long period of time. He joined the book with issue, I think it was like 30, I think it was 24, and he didn't finally leave until 75. He was there for quite a while. And also, I believe also this point, I think it was just prior to this or after this, he actually had an 8-issue miniseries. Yeah, he did. And you're thinking, really? Hawkeye had a miniseries? Well, it was the third volume for the series, and it mostly was exploring Hawkeye's backstory. Well, basically exploring his early years, per se. That's mostly put what it was. Now you might be asking, Nick, was this miniseries ever put into trade? The answer is no. It never was. You might be asking, why wasn't it put in trade? My personal answer? I have no idea. No, seriously, I have no idea why. Actually, it's more like a mini-series. Well, it was ongoing, but yeah, it just basically didn't. To date, I mean, the miniseries only came. The series only came out in 2003, which is prior to this. And at least they brought in the same cover artist. Yeah, and mostly put for that one, it just basically explores Hawkeye's backstory. Yeah, of course, that one, his primal appearance, that one was basically in Ecstatic number 26, the final issue of that series. Yep. But I think it was actually after this he had a very brief ongoing series. Was it terrible? No, and it all seems like, though, the artist who did the cover artwork, I think it was the same artist who worked on Alias. Yes, I believe it was. I thought it was. I don't. Oh no, I thought it was. Nope, it was somebody else. But yeah. So Hawkeye returns the Avengers at this point. And by the way, this is issue number 74. Which, by the way, is the third to last issue of Geoff Johns' run for Avengers. And at this point in time, he brings in actually was 73. Which, this is in November of 2003. That's when the issue was released. November 2003. Yep. Yeah, November 2003. So it's basically before his very brief ongoing series he had. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very brief ongoing series he had. And it's weird, though, the fact that he gets his ongoing series I think it was just before. Yeah, I think it was just before that. So yeah. So he returns to the Avengers here with this story arc. Fights She-Hulk. She-Hulk turns back normal and she rejoins the Avengers at the end of the conclusion of the story arc. Takes a bit of a while, but yeah, then of course the appearance by She-Hulk's awesome cousin, the Hulk. Yep. You might thinking, does 75 conclude this story arc? Yes it does. 76, which is the end of the run. Yep, the end. Which basically just has Jack of Hearts. And of course, She-Hulk rejoined the Avengers at this point, along with Hawkeye. It's mostly put it's mostly a Scott Lang issue, where this issue has the death of Jack of Hearts. Yep. In the final issue of Geoff Johns' run, he kills off Jack of Hearts. Why does he kill off Jack of Hearts? Who the heck frickin' knows? I don't really know the reason for this. Yeah, I don't really know why. It's just kind of weird. Yeah, I don't really know why. Yeah, as far as I can tell, there's no real reason why that he decides this, but he does. Yeah. Though Jack of Hearts does come back 9 issues later in issue 500 for Avengers, leading, basically, he's brought back as a zombie that leads the Avengers is assembled. That was done by Bendis. Yes, and that pretty much wraps up Geoff Johns' run for Avengers. I have heard the reason why he left, and you might be asking, Nick, what was the reason why that he left the book? You want to know the reason why? Apparently because DC paid better. Yep. And also because they treat him a lot better than Marvel ever did. Yep, that is the simple reason for it. Yeah. Because as soon as he wrapped up his run for this book, he never came back to Marvel. Nope, never did. And you might be asking, why did he come back to Marvel? Today he hasn't. Excuse me. I'm not really sure, is there probably isn't a reason why he should come back to, well, yeah, as far as I can tell, there's, how should I put this? There is, no reason for him to go back to Marvel. He's too busy at DC to come back to Marvel. Yeah, that's the honest truth of the matter. He doesn't really have a reason to come back to Marvel. No, not really. He has no reason to come back, and, well, there's that for you. Yep. That's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Take a brief break for a minute, because I probably got to share a video. And then I'll do one more comic corner, and that'll be pretty much, might be one more video after that. That'll be pretty much it for this night. Okay, take the video. Bye.